Alright, hello. In this video, I'm going to go over how to add sound into a Java GUI project using Eclipse and Windows Builder. I made a video previously with sound and I realized that it didn't work when I exported it to a .jar file. It worked inside of Eclipse, but not inside of a .jar. So I'm modifying this slightly from the previous video. So sorry if you watched the previous video, but it's more or less very similar to before. So I have a bunch of code here you can use, and then I also did a sample.wave file if you want to just use this one to see if it can work, and then you can always go back and change it later. I have found that .waves work the best. You can try an MP3 file and an MP4 file, but if you're finding it doesn't work, just Google search convert to .wave or something, or .mp3 to .wave or something, and you'll find a site that can probably convert your file for you too. So if you can't get an MP3 or an MP4 to work, try converting it to wave. Anyways, here goes with the Java code. So I'm going to start from scratch, and I'm going to do a new JFrame. So you need Windows Builder, so watch the previous videos if you don't have Windows Builder, but I have a Java project and a little package here. I need to file new other, and I'm going to do Windows Builder and then JFrame. Okay, and then I'm just going to name it sound example. I'm going to name it sound example 2 just to make sure, keep it straight from my previous one. And then it'll show up here. Alright, first thing I'm going to do is add a button that'll trigger the sound being played. And you could have the sound trigger in lots of different spots. You just add the play sound method call wherever you want it to play the sound, whether it's at the start of the game, if they lose, if two things collide, whatever. You can have any event trigger it. You just call the method at that point. But I'm going to do a button just to make it simple. So I'm going to open my design tab here and add a button, and then in the click code of the button, I'm going to have it play the sound. All right, and so all the code and stuff you can get from the Schoology website, and then just kind of change a couple things in there, and then you should be okay. All right, so as always, I'm going to change my layout of my content pane here. I'm going to change it to absolute layout because it's easier to work with, and then I'm going to add my button. I'm just going to add it right here. And we'll call it button play sound, or button sound maybe. And then the text will just be play sound. All right, so now my button's all set up, and then I'm just going to double click on it to take me to the Java code for the click event. So now I'm right in here, and I'm just going to have it play the sound. Okay, and so this is just going to call the play sound method. So here's where I'm going to go out to Schoology, and I'm going to click on my code here. All right, and then I'm going to get, this is what I need in the button, right? It's just the play sound, where this is the name of my file. So I'm just going to call it, and I'm not going to worry about the file name yet. Once I have my file, I'll change the code here. Okay, and then this play sound method, I'm going to add that outside of any of my other methods. So this looks like actually a constructor. So I'm going to go outside of that constructor and paste in the play sound method, which I'm also going to get from right out here. So I'm just going to copy all this code. All right, and then let's see. So it looks like, there's a bunch of stuff that has to be imported. So I'm going to hit Control, Shift, and O to import it all. And I just want the basic Java IO stream there. So that imports a bunch of stuff. And now it looks like it's okay. And then, you do want to change here. So just a little bit about what this code is doing, I guess. So first off, this is called a thread. And so what the thread does is it allows the rest of the code to run like simultaneously along with the sound. If you didn't do a thread, you would play the sound, but nothing else could happen until that sound finishes running, right? Because Java runs lines sequentially, and so just like with Scanner, it can't move on until the user enters something. It'll just hang on that spot of the code. The same thing would be true if you tried to play a sound. But the way around that is threads. Threads are like two different processes running at the same time so that you can have the sound running while the user is still clicking and doing other things. So the thread allows like multiple paths for the code to be running at the same time versus just one sequential path like normally happens. So that's what this is doing, is it's making a new thread, and it's a runnable thing because it runs. All right. And then this is just creating a clip. This is doing an audio stream from the clip. And so here, this does need to change because it's going to look up the location of your file based on where the class is located. And so our thing was called Sound Example 2. So I originally did this in something called my math game. So I want to change this to Sound Example 2. So it's going to go to the location of that and try to find the file in that sort of resource. And I don't quite understand completely how this works, but you do need to change this to be your class name. All right, and then I think the rest of the code is just, it opens the audio stream and it starts the clip. And if it fails, it'll display a JOption pane thing with a little bit of an error message. All right, so that's kind of the basics of how that code works. All right, so the final thing we need is to get our file. So the one I'm going to use is just the one that's in this folder called correct.wave. Again, you can get whatever you want, and generally WAV files work better. But for me, I'm going to go back into Eclipse here. And so I'm going to put it in a resource folder. So kind of like we did images in a resource folder, if you remember from previous videos, I'm going to do another resource folder. So source folder, so I'm going to do file, new, source folder, and you can actually name it whatever you want. You could name it, I think, sounds or anything like that. So maybe I'll just name it sounds. Sometimes I name it resources and put all my sounds and images together, but I'm just going to call it sounds. Okay, and then I need to put my WAV file in there. So I have it saved in a different spot in here, so I'm just going to drag mine in. But you can get it from the internet or whatever. Wherever you get it, just make sure you get it in there and make sure it shows up. Right? Sometimes when you drag it in, you have to hit refresh and then make sure it shows up. So there's my name, correct.wave. So in my code, in my button code, I just want to call that. So here I want to do correct.wave, make sure the uppercase and lowercase is right. But that's going to be just the path to the file. So now I'm going to save it and I'm going to run it and see if I can get it to play here. Yes, you probably didn't hear that play, but I could hear it play, so it's working. And so you just have to have the file just like that. And then any other sound, you just call it with this method, right, whenever you need, and then make sure to put the wave in this resource folder, right? And then they have to match exactly, and you call it, and it'll work just fine. And again, what should work with this is that didn't work in my previous video is if you do if you export it now to a runnable jar. If you do file export and do a runnable jar, this should work now, right? It should. Before it went with my old code, it didn't work, but it should be working now. So hopefully, yeah, that does the trick. Let me know if you have any questions or if it didn't work for you. Good luck. Sound is kind of a fun way to make your project enhance it a little bit. So thanks for watching and good luck.